Ladies and gentlemen, every single thought you entertain is shaping the life you are living right now. Most people drift through their days unaware that their minds are quietly writing the script of their destiny, line by line, moment by moment. But imagine what would happen if you decided to take full command of that power. Imagine mastering your thoughts before they master you. Because the truth is this: the world doesn't create your mind creates the world you see. As the days pass, you begin to notice something remarkable taking shape within you. The noise that once clouded your mind starts to fade, and in its place comes a steady calm, a quiet confidence that you are in command of yourself. You no longer move through life at the mercy of external events, because you have learned to govern the one thing that determines how every event will affect you, your thinking. You realize that no storm outside can shake a mind anchored in clarity and purpose. Each morning becomes a sacred opportunity to align your thoughts with your vision. Before the world has the chance to intrude, you sit with your mind and give it direction. You feed it with words of strength, images of success, and the conviction that you are capable of growth and greatness. You understand now that every day the world will test your mental discipline. People will complain, distractions will beckon, and challenges will arise. But these are not obstacles. They are exercises for your mind. They are reminders to stay aware, to stay deliberate, and to keep your thoughts under your control. There was a time when you reacted to every situation without thought, when your emotions led you like an unbroken horse racing in the wrong direction. But now you have taken the reins. You see that the difference between success and failure, peace and chaos, is the ability to pause and think rightly in the moments that matter most. You have learned to insert thought where once there was only reaction. That pause, that breath, that conscious choice, it is the mark of mastery. You begin to notice how others around you live unconsciously, allowing the outer world to dictate their inner state. They complain about the weather, about people, about circumstances, never realizing that their suffering is not caused by those things, but by their thoughts about them. You understand now that it is not the event, but the interpretation of the event that defines your experience. You cannot always choose what happens, but you can always choose what it means, and that single choice transforms everything. As you master your thoughts, your perspective shifts. You start to see opportunity where others see difficulty. You see lessons where others see loss. You see strength in struggle, meaning in adversity, and growth in discomfort. This shift does not come overnight. It is the result of daily effort, of catching yourself when your mind drifts toward negativity and gently guiding it back toward truth. You become the caretaker of your own consciousness, tending to it as a gardener tends to his soil, knowing that the harvest depends on the care you give it each day. Soon you discover that your outer results begin to mirror your inner discipline. You attract people and situations that align with your dominant thoughts. The same law that governs the growth of a seed governs the growth of a mind. What you plant and nurture within will eventually appear without. Those who live with thoughts of abundance find doors opening where before there were walls. Those who dwell on scarcity see only lack, no matter how much they possess. The world responds faithfully to the pattern of your thinking, for life is always a reflection of the mind that perceives it. There is a deep joy in this realization, a sense of freedom that cannot be taken away. You are no longer a wanderer tossed by the winds of circumstance. You are a creator, shaping your destiny with every thought you choose to hold. You find that happiness is not a prize waiting at the end of the road, but a byproduct of right thinking in this very moment. Gratitude becomes your natural state, not because everything is perfect, but because your perception has become clear enough to see the good in everything. The practice deepens as you move through your days. You learn to think deliberately even in the face of difficulty. When someone wrongs you, you choose understanding over resentment. When a plan fails, you choose persistence over despair. When fear whispers that you might not make it, you choose courage over retreat. You begin to understand that thought mastery is not about avoiding challenges, it's about maintaining mastery through them. It's about keeping your mind steady in the midst of chaos, just as a seasoned sailor steadies his ship through a storm. Every time you rise above a negative thought, you grow stronger. Each victory over doubt is a step toward freedom. You start to recognize that thoughts are not facts, they are possibilities. You can entertain them, question them, and replace them. The moment you refuse to accept a disempowering thought as truth, you reclaim your power. And as you do, life begins to mirror that power back to you in the form of peace, clarity, and progress. You also notice that your influence expands. People around you begin to feel your calmness, your certainty, your quiet conviction. They may not know what changed, but they sense it. Your thoughts have shaped not only your inner world, but your presence in the outer one. This is the invisible law of life. The energy you carry, born from your thinking, affects everyone you encounter. A mastered mind uplifts others simply by existing in its natural state of order and harmony. There is an elegance in this way of living. It requires no force, no struggle, only awareness and choice. Each thought becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of your destiny. With patience and persistence, you paint a masterpiece of your own design. You stop rushing to the future or clinging to the past because you realize that mastery can only exist in the present moment. Every breath becomes an opportunity to think rightly, to align with truth, to create consciously. And as this awareness grows, you begin to see that the entire world operates by the same law. Nature itself is a testament to the power of orderly thought. The seasons follow their rhythm, the seed grows according to its kind, nothing happens by accident, and nothing grows without a pattern. So too it is with your mind. The order of your thoughts determines the order of your life. When your thinking is harmonious, your actions become efficient, your relationships become balanced, and your path becomes clear. The greatest secret you uncover in this journey is that thought mastery is not about controlling every idea that passes through your mind, it's about choosing which ones to give power to. Unwanted thoughts will always appear, that is the nature of the mind. But mastery lies in awareness, the ability to observe without attachment, to let go of what does not serve you, and to hold fast to what uplifts and strengthens you. The mind, when trained, becomes a faithful servant rather than a restless master. You begin to understand the importance of stillness. In moments of quiet reflection, you gain access to a deeper intelligence that guides your thoughts with wisdom. You realize that beneath the noise of daily life, there exists a calm current of awareness that never wavers. By connecting with it, you find guidance that no book or teacher can provide. It is your own inner compass, your connection to truth, and it speaks most clearly when your thoughts are still. You also learn that repetition is the sculptor of the mind. The more you think a thought, the stronger it becomes, so you choose carefully. You repeat words of affirmation, images of success, and visions of purpose until they take root deep within your consciousness. Over time, they become automatic, replacing the old patterns that once held you back. It is through this consistent repetition that mastery becomes second nature. You no longer struggle to think rightly. It becomes who you are. In this state, you see how life begins to simplify itself. The conflicts that once consumed you lose their power. The fears that once haunted you dissolve under the light of understanding. You no longer waste energy fighting what you cannot control. Instead, you focus entirely on the one thing that has always been within your reach, your own mind, and from that single point of control, you influence everything else. You realize that true wealth is not measured in possessions but in thoughts. A person who can master their mind possesses a treasure that cannot be stolen, lost, or destroyed. The ability to think clearly, to direct one's consciousness with purpose, is the foundation of all success, all peace, and all fulfillment. Everything else flows from it like rivers from a single source. With time, your thoughts align so deeply with your highest intentions that life itself begins to move in harmony with you. You no longer chase success, it gravitates toward you. You no longer seek happiness, it arises naturally from within. You have learned to live from the inside out, knowing that what happens around you matters far less than what happens within you. The journey never truly ends, because mastery is not a destination but a continual practice. Each sunrise invites you to begin again, to choose once more the kind of thoughts that will shape the day ahead. And with each choice, each conscious moment, you become more attuned to the quiet truth that has been guiding you all along, that every great life begins with a mastered thought. As the days continue to unfold, the mastery of your thoughts deepens into something almost effortless, like a rhythm you've learned to dance to without conscious strain. You begin to see that thought mastery is not merely a skill. It is a way of being, a natural state of harmony with life itself. Your mind, once a restless and noisy servant, has become a calm and obedient instrument. It no longer races in 1,000 directions, chasing fear or doubt. Instead, it moves with precision, guided by your intention, shaped by your vision, and fueled by your purpose. You start to notice the subtle ways in which your environment reflects your inner world. The people you attract, the conversations you have, the opportunities that present themselves, all seem to mirror the thoughts you consistently hold. When your mind is filled with clarity and strength, your world seems to align with clarity and strength. When you carry peace within, life responds in kind. You begin to understand that the universe does not give you what you wish for. It gives you what you are prepared for, and preparation begins in the mind. Each thought carries energy. When that energy is positive, focused, and consistent, it shapes reality with quiet certainty. This realization changes everything. You no longer chase outcomes, you create them internally first. You no longer wait for circumstances to be right. You make them right by the power of your perception. You become a conscious architect of your life, knowing that every thought is a brick in the structure of your destiny. You begin to take joy in the smallest victories of awareness. A negative thought that once would have consumed you now passes without power. A moment of frustration is met not with anger, but with understanding. Where there once was noise, there is now space. Where there once was confusion, there is now clarity. This is the quiet triumph of mastery, not in dramatic gestures, but in the silent, consistent control of one's inner world. The deeper you go, the more you see how thoughts shape emotion, and emotion shapes behavior. What once felt automatic now feels deliberate. You recognize that your feelings are not mysterious forces beyond your control, but the predictable result of the thoughts you entertain. When your thinking is aligned with truth, your emotions naturally follow with peace. When your thinking slips into fear, your emotions tighten like a knot. And so, you return to awareness, loosen the knot, and begin again. It becomes clear that the world has always belonged to those who mastered their minds. Every invention, every discovery, every work of art, every act of courage, each began in the realm of thought. Those who have achieved greatness were not blessed with extraordinary circumstances. They simply learned to hold extraordinary thoughts long enough for them to become reality. They believed when others doubted, persisted when others quit, and focused when others drifted. You now understand that the same power resides within you. Discipline becomes your ally. Each morning, before the demands of the day pull at your attention, You return to your mind like a sculptor returning to his work. You examine your thoughts with care, smoothing the rough edges of fear, shaping the contours of belief, carving away every fragment of limitation until what remains is pure intention. The process is quiet, unseen by others, but its results are unmistakable. You move with purpose, you speak with conviction, you live with calm assurance. You learn to see setbacks not as failures but as feedback signals pointing you toward clearer thinking. Every difficulty becomes a test of mastery, a chance to practice what you know. When disappointment comes, you remind yourself that it is not the event that matters, but your interpretation of it. You ask, what thought will serve me now? What lesson hides within this moment? And as you ask, clarity always arrives. You realize that life is a mirror, showing you not what you deserve, but what you think. In your quiet moments, you begin to feel the vast potential that lies within thought. It is limitless, bound only by the imagination that gives it form. You think of how an idea can change the course of a life or the course of the world. You think of how a single belief can raise a person from despair to purpose, from weakness to strength. You see now that the mind is not something to be feared or tamed, but something to be understood and directed. The greatest journey you can take is the journey inward, toward mastery of your own consciousness. As you grow in awareness, you also develop compassion for others. You see that most people suffer not because of what life gives them, but because of what they think about what life gives them. They are prisoners of their own untrained minds, tossed by worry, fear, and doubt. But rather than judge them, you offer understanding. You know that once you too were caught in that storm, and so you lead by example, quietly, steadily, showing through your own calmness that there is another way to live. You realize that mastering your thoughts does not separate you from the world. It connects you more deeply to it. Because when your mind is clear, you can listen, truly listen to life. You can see beauty where others see chaos, opportunity where others see failure. You move through your days with an alertness that others mistake for luck, not realizing that it is the natural result of a focused and ordered mind. You start to live with intention in every sense. You speak words that uplift rather than destroy, knowing that words are thoughts made visible. You surround yourself with ideas that expand your vision, with people who inspire growth, with environments that nurture creativity. You no longer consume information passively, you select it consciously, feeding your mind as carefully as an athlete nourishes the body. You guard against negativity, not out of fear, but out of respect for the power of thought. There are moments when old patterns try to return, moments when doubt whispers, when fear tries to regain its hold. But now you recognize those voices for what they are, echoes of a past self, remnants of an undisciplined mind, and in those moments you do not fight them, you simply observe them. Observation is the quiet act of mastery, the reminder that you are not your thoughts, you are the one who chooses them. Over time, this awareness becomes your greatest strength. You no longer depend on circumstances for stability. You draw your stability from within. You can walk through uncertainty without panic, through challenge without complaint, through change without fear, because you know that while the outer world may shift and move, the inner world, when governed by truth, remains steady. This is real power, to be unmoved by chaos because your thoughts are anchored in clarity. As you live this truth more fully, success begins to feel inevitable, not because it comes easily, but because it flows naturally from right thinking. You understand now that results are never random. They are the inevitable product of cause and effect, and thought is the primary cause. You no longer wonder whether things will work out. You know they must, for you are aligned with the laws that govern all creation. You think clearly, act deliberately, and trust completely. Your days begin to take on a different rhythm. There is less rush, less noise, less conflict. You approach each task with quiet concentration, each conversation with presence, each decision with calm discernment. You find satisfaction not in the speed of progress, but in the steadiness of it. Each thought, each choice, each moment builds upon the last, forming a life of purpose, peace, and power. And through it all, gratitude becomes your constant companion. You see how every thought of gratitude multiplies good, how appreciation opens doors that striving alone never could. Gratitude keeps the mind open, creative, and receptive. It transforms ordinary moments into miracles of awareness. You realize that no matter what happens, there is always something to be thankful for: the breath in your lungs, the lessons learned, the privilege of being conscious in this vast and mysterious world. In mastering your thoughts, you have discovered the foundation of mastery in all things. You have seen that every achievement begins not with effort, but with awareness. You have learned that peace is not found by avoiding the storms of life, but by learning to think rightly within them. You have come to understand that every outer change begins with an inner one, and that by directing your thoughts each day, you are shaping the future before it ever arrives. And so you continue, one day at a time, refining, observing, choosing. You live each moment as both student and teacher of your own mind, learning from every thought, guiding every reaction, and steadily building the kind of life that only a mastered thinker can create. As you move further along this path of awareness, something extraordinary begins to occur. The boundary between what you think and what you experience starts to dissolve. You realize that your life is not happening to you. It is unfolding through you. Every event, every encounter, every moment seems to correspond to the silent patterns of thought you have been nurturing within. It is as though the universe itself has been listening, echoing back to you the vibrations of your own mind. This revelation deepens your responsibility, but it also amplifies your power. You understand now that the quality of your world depends entirely on the quality of your thinking. The more you see this truth, the less tempted you are to complain or blame. You no longer waste energy resenting the past or fearing the future, because you know that every ounce of your attention is creative. You have seen what happens when you think with fear. It multiplies. You have seen what happens when you think with gratitude. It expands. You have learned that every thought sown is a seed of reality waiting for its season to grow. And so, you plant only that which you wish to harvest. The mind becomes like a finely tuned instrument. You play it with care, understanding that a single discordant thought can throw your entire harmony off balance. You learn to recognize the subtle tone of your inner dialogue. When it drifts toward worry or complaint, you gently bring it back to faith and possibility. You no longer fight with your mind, you guide it, the way a seasoned conductor leads an orchestra, confidently, gracefully, with a steady hand. People begin to notice the change in you, though they can't quite name it. You seem lighter, more composed, more present. Challenges that once unsettled you now seem small in comparison to the stillness you carry inside. You handle adversity with a quiet assurance that others mistake for luck or talent. Not realizing it is the fruit of disciplined thought. You have learned the simple but profound truth that the calmest mind holds the greatest power. In your still moments, you begin to sense the creative intelligence that flows through all of life. You see that it was never separate from you. It has always been expressing itself through you, limited only by the boundaries of your thinking. When your thoughts are small, your world contracts. When your thoughts expand, life responds with equal generosity. You are no longer content to think merely for survival. You think to create, to grow, to contribute. You think to align yourself with that vast intelligence that moves galaxies and grows forests. And in doing so, you feel the pulse of life itself beating through you. Every thought you think is an act of creation. Every belief you hold becomes a command to the invisible forces that shape reality. You no longer speak idly, for you know that words are thoughts clothed in sound. You no longer entertain idle worries, for you understand that the mind magnifies whatever it focuses on. Instead, you fill your inner world with images of strength, faith, and gratitude, knowing that your outer world must eventually conform. This way of living begins to transform even the simplest aspects of your day. When you wake, you no longer dread the hours ahead. You greet them as opportunities to practice mastery. Each conversation becomes a chance to speak truth. Each decision becomes a mirror of your thinking. Even in silence, you are active, shaping, forming, directing your life with every conscious thought. The ordinary becomes sacred, for you see that thought imbues everything with meaning. You come to understand that the true test of mastery is not in comfort, but in challenge. When life shakes you, when the unexpected arrives, when plans fall apart, you meet those moments not with panic, but with purpose. You ask, what thought can I hold now that will bring peace, wisdom, or growth? This single question separates the unconscious from the master. It turns chaos into clarity, confusion into understanding. You see that you are never without choice, for your thinking is always your own. Even your perception of time begins to shift. You no longer rush toward the future, believing that happiness waits somewhere ahead. You recognize that the present moment, this breath, this thought, is the point of creation. What you think now becomes what you live later. So, you give the present your full attention, infusing it with purpose and awareness. In doing so, life slows down, time expands, each moment feels rich, alive, meaningful. There is a growing humility within you as well. You realize that mastering your thoughts does not make you superior, it makes you more connected. The same intelligence that guides you guides all living things. You begin to see others through a lens of compassion, understanding that every person is battling within their own mind, learning their own lessons in their own time. You no longer need to control them, convince them, or correct them. You simply live your truth, knowing that the light of a calm and disciplined mind is more powerful than any argument. Your relationships transform naturally. You listen more deeply because you are no longer preoccupied with your own worries. You respond with patience because you have learned to pause before reacting. You find joy in understanding others because you no longer view them through the fog of judgment. This inner mastery spills outward, shaping not just your thoughts, but the atmosphere around you. You become a source of steadiness in a world of noise. The more you live this truth, the more your confidence deepens, not the loud confidence that demands recognition, but the quiet assurance that comes from alignment. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself, because you know that your worth was never in question. You no longer chase approval because you have found peace in self-direction. You no longer fear failure because you understand that failure is simply feedback guiding your thought toward truth. There will still be days when your mind wavers, when doubt tries to creep in, when fear whispers its familiar story. But now, you see these moments for what they are: opportunities to return to awareness. You no longer run from discomfort, you use it. You ask what it is teaching you, what thought it is inviting you to release. You treat your mind with kindness, knowing that mastery does not come through force, but through understanding. You notice that your goals begin to take on new meaning. They are no longer about accumulation or validation, but about expression. You realize that success is not measured by what you gain, but by how fully you use the power of your own thought to create, uplift, and serve. Every great achievement becomes an act of contribution, a way of participating in the grand design of life. You begin to think not just of what you can get, but of what you can give, and in that giving, you discover that abundance flows naturally toward you. You understand now that mastery is not rigidity, it is fluidity. It is the ability to adapt your thoughts to any circumstance while remaining anchored in principle. When life changes course, you do not resist, you adjust. When uncertainty arises, you do not shrink, you expand your thinking to meet it. You have learned that flexibility is a sign of strength, not weakness. The mind that can bend without breaking is the mind that can create without limit. There are moments of profound stillness where you feel the vastness of life flowing through you. In those moments, you realize that thought is not separate from creation. It is creation. Every tree, every building, every invention, every movement of progress began as a thought in someone's mind. You are participating in that same eternal process each time you think with purpose. You see that the invisible world of ideas is more real than anything you can touch, for everything tangible begins there. As your awareness deepens, you begin to move through the world differently. You carry yourself with quiet dignity, not born of pride, but of understanding. You walk into each moment knowing that you are never powerless, that you always possess the ability to choose the quality of your thoughts. You can feel fear and still think courageously. You can encounter opposition and still think harmoniously. You can stand in darkness and still think light. Each night, as you reflect on your day, you see the subtle evidence of your inner work. The way you handled a challenge without frustration, the way you found beauty in the ordinary, the way you brought peace into a situation that once would have angered you. These are the silent victories of thought mastery, the kind that cannot be measured by the world, but are felt deeply in the heart. You no longer see mastery as an achievement to reach someday, but as a living practice, a continual refinement of awareness. Each day is another chance to think more clearly, to live more consciously, to align more fully with the creative intelligence that flows through everything. You see that there is no end to growth, no finish line to awareness, only an ever-deepening understanding of the power that has been with you all along, the power to think, to choose, to create.